Hi, welcome to this tutorial on Android application development by Great Learning. Now let's see the agenda of this tutorial. First, we will see what are the things that we should already know in order to learn smoothly and go smoothly through this course. First, we are going to talk about them. Then we are going to set up our environment, right? What are the things that we need to download, right? Then we are going to see the overview of the IDE, that is Android Studio. Then we are going to create our first application, that is Hello World. Then we will see what does a formatting text means, text fields and buttons. Finally, whatever we learned in this tutorial, we are going to build something up based on that, right? We are going to build two applications, right? That is why I have written demo 1 and demo 2. So we are going to build two applications based on everything that we have learned in this tutorial. Now let's get started. First, what are the things that you should know? Obviously, we are going to build on Java, not the Kotlin. Okay, so in Java, what are the things that you should know? You should know the Java basics, right? How you declare a variable, what are for loops, how you define for loops, how you can use them, the switch cases, right? Then we need to know what are the four basic programming pillars, right? The abstraction, polymorphism, inheritance, and encapsulation. We should also know multi-threading and exception handling, right? We should know about generics and collection classes, right? What are the collection framework that we have? Arrays, array lists, right? A linked list, all those things we should have an idea about. We should also know Java annotations, right? We should know what are the functions that we can override, what are the functions we can reuse, right? So these all Java annotations you should have a basic understanding of that as well, right? So after that, you should know what an XML is, basics of XML, right? Like its structure, its syntax, right? And elements, what are the elements present in it? Okay, so now once you have a clear idea about all those things, then we will just go smoothly along this course. Okay, now what are the things that we should download, right? Earlier we used to do what we used to do before Android Studio, right? We need to download two things, Android SDK and Android Studio. But now both of these things are included in our Android Studio, right? So this is all you need to do is just download Android Studio based on whatever the operating system that you're having, or whatever the system that you're having. If you're having Mac, then you download that version of Android Studio, or if you're having Windows, then you download that version, and based upon the operating system, based on the RAM of the operating system, you download this software. Okay, all you need is just Android Studio. That's it. Now let's see how, once you have downloaded this file, now let's see what are the things that you should know, right? So basically, when you download this file, you will get an icon that is shown on your screen, that green icon, right? On below that is written Android Studio, and once you double click on it, and we will get to know all of these things. Okay, now let's get started with the demo and let's run these things. Okay, so now once you have downloaded this, and when you double clicked on it, you will get this screen on your desktop, right? So the first thing that it showed was the tip of the day. Basically, it will show you all the updates that are right now, if there is any update, all those things, right? Right now we can see one can easily convert any Java class into Kotlin class with the same semantics. You just need to do that thing, right? Convert Java code from the main menu. So this is the tip of the day, so you can close it. It's very useful, guys. So now let me just close all the files that are present here, right? And let me minimize this thing as well, and let's create a new project. Okay, so now once we have created a new project, this is the template that you will get. Okay, the project template. Basically, this is nothing but an activity. What do you mean by activity? Basically, whatever the user sees, if you can see carefully all these activities, right? The basic activity is there, navigation activity is there, empty activity is there. Now if you have observed carefully, when we use those apps like Zomato, Uber Eats, right, therein we have this map kind of activity, right? So login activity is there wherein we will log in, and then in WhatsApp we have this thing, right, setting system activity. And in WhatsApp we also have this tabbed activity, right? We can tab, right? If we press right, if we swipe towards the right, then we have that status wherein we can check status, all those things, right? So these are all activities. So right now we are going to just go through the basic empty activity for now, and then we click on next. And now this is the first thing that you will get. So we have seen our activity, right? The screen of our web page of our application, right? Now we have, first thing is the name of the application. So let's create first, let me name it as our first app, right? So let me name it. So the name is given to our application. Then this package name, you can put it as it is, or if you have having any company name, or if you have any website that you can put it, right? So basically the order is in this form, that you first put the or in, or whatever is the website, whatever your website is, then the example, and then this our first app comes with the help of this name. And based on this our application, whatever is the name, that name is given here. Okay, then we can save it wherever we want. Then right now we are dealing with Java, so it's right, it's obviously that we are going to select Java as our language. And then this minimum SDK is nothing but it tells us how the percentage of phone, right? We have different phones, and whatever is the percentage written there is that approximately this percentage of devices can access, or your app can run on 99.2% of devices. That's good, right? So we'll keep it as it is. So if you see, if we change it to Jelly Bean 4.3, then the percentage drops, right? So for now, let's keep it 4.2. Okay, so we don't need the legacy for now, legacy libraries, and let's finish it. Okay, it will take some time depending upon the operating system that you're having. Okay, so now the first thing that comes, let me just cancel it out. Okay, so now the first thing that comes here, let me just minimize this thing as well, these panels. Okay, so this is the thing, right? So our first application, it's written there, right? I have already created one application, so that's why it is showing application 2. So therein we have no devices. Right now let's go through one by one with all these tabs that we have. So in first we have the file tab, where we can just navigate through. We can create a new project, right? We can open recent projects, we can close projects, right? All those things, right? And then we have edit, view option, navigate option. So this is the basic menu bar, right? So we have in here. So this is all. This is not right now, it's not important that much, because just we are starting this thing. So right now, if you see, in your case there will be showing no devices here, wherein in my case it is showing Pixel API 24. So we will see how we can how the emulator works, and how we can create a lookalike, right? A lookalike phone on our own desktop. Okay, so there are two ways, we will see them. Okay, as we move along. Okay, so now the first tab is there. So in this project 1 file, there are a few important files that we have to deal with. Okay, rest we can skip for now. Okay, not skip, I will give you a brief idea about them. So there is an app folder which contains basically whatever are the files that are present in our application, that those files will be present in here. And then there is Gradle script. Gradle script is nothing but an open source build tool which Android uses to build our application. So basically this is the tool that helps us to build our application. Okay, and it's some, we can also add our own scripts in it. So right now we are not going in that much depth. So just to give you an overview, so it is an open source built-in tool which Android uses to build our application. Okay, so Gradle script. Now let's see what are the files that are present in this app. So the first thing is present there, R is manifest, then Java, and then res. So this file, this folder, that is the manifest folder, it contains one file, that is Android manifest xml.xml. So basically it will contain the basic details about our app. Okay, now if I open this file, if you can see that we have some Android LO backup, right, icon, all these things, the basic our application, right? So if you see the name, that the label is given there, right, our first application, right? So Android, it supports right to left, right, also the language which are from right to left, right? If you see the Arabic languages or the Urdu language, right, they are from left to right, it supports them. Then the theme, right, then the theme is there, and then this is the main activity. So if you can see, then we have here, from here to here we have an activity. Right now we have only one activity, right, we only created one activity, but as our application, or as our application goes, we might add multiple activities, right? That makes sense, right? So these are all the files, the basic all the basic information regarding our application is present in this Android manifest.xml. Okay, and then there is also a package that we have, right, the example first application, and then the version is also there. Okay, so these are all basic information that is given, okay, in this Android manifest file, XML file. Then there is another folder, that is Java, and this is the most important folder as it contains our main activity. So if I opened it, you will see. So now let's talk about this main activity folder first. Okay, so if you see in this Java, we have what, this main activity file, right, main activity.java. If we have chosen the Kotlin folder, right, the Kotlin as a language, then there would have been the extension of this file would have been .kt. Okay, so now it contains first the package, right, wherein our application is, that is com.example.first app. It can be changed, we didn't change it, but it can be changed at any moment. Okay, and the package as well. So the main activity, there is the first import that we are doing, that app compat activity. So basically it does nothing but it makes our application backwards compatible. What do you mean by this thing? I'm highlighting this thing. What do you mean by this thing? This means that our app is backwards compatible, right? What do you mean by that thing? If later on, if right now we are designing some app, right, we build some app, so after some time this Android application, or there came a new version, so we don't have to make any changes, it is backwards compatible, so it will work on those on that version as well. Okay, this is what this import does. Then there is another import that we are doing, that os.bundle, which allows us to work with Android operating system. Okay, this is the second import that we are doing. It allows us to work with Android operating system. Okay, then there is this public class, right? We need to have some kind of knowledge regarding Java, right? We know what an extend does. Basically it inherits, right? Extend is used to inherit properties from the class that we have, right? We have a class called app compat activity, which makes our application backwards compatible. It extends it, right? Then there is a public class keyword written, or which are nothing. Public is nothing but a access modifier, right? And class is used to declare a class, right? Class keyword, and then the name of the class is main activity. Then we have annotation, that override function that we have, and then we have our first that is the only method that is there, which we are overriding on create, which is nothing but returning void type, and then we call the parent class constructor, right? The super keyword is used, and then we have set content view r.layout.activity main. So basically we will go into R is nothing but a resource, and then if we go into the layout, and in that layout we have that XML file, which is nothing but the front end of our file, of our application. Basically we only deal with two kind of files here, right? When we are dealing with with our application, we only deal with two kinds of file. The first file is the main activity file, that is the Java file, and then there is the activity main, this file, that XML file. Okay, so these are the only two files, and it is present in the layout folder. Okay, so this is all about this main activity for now. And then when we go into a resource folder, then we have drawable, right? So basically these icons will be there, the path will be there, right? So fill, color, all those things will be there, the paths. Okay, right now we can I mean to say, we are not dealing with these things, but you should know that what is where. Okay, so this is all what that is present in our drawable folder. Then the layout folder is there, which contains our XML file, right? So once we have opened this XML file, if you see, let me just minimize this thing as well, and then we have our XML file, right, which contains the text view, right? So we will talk about what are these text views, and what does each what does this width and height represents, what does this text mean. So all of these constraints we will see. Okay, so basically this layout folder will contain our front end file, basically, right? That XML file, activity.main. Basically this layout folder defines the layout, that is the front end or the activity of our app. Okay, so this is all about this layout folder. Okay, then we have mi map and mip map, that is the launchers that we have, right? The background color, the foreground color, all those things, right? And the round this is again the background color is there. Okay, so these are all files that we will deal later on this. Okay, so then there is values, right? We have values. Then there is a color name, that is the primary color is given. We will see what are these colors. Primary color dark when we open our activity, right? When we run our application on our emulator, or we will see in the XML file when we see the design of that, right? There is two, the design and the blueprint. So therein these colors come into picture, right? So we have another thing, that is strings, then the styles, right? So styles are also there. Okay, so this is all about these what are the things that are present in these folders. So right now, what in the project panel, that is here, the project panel, all we care about these two files, the main activity file, that's our Java file, and our activity main.xml file. Okay, apart from that, rest of the things are not important for us right now, as we are just starting. So later on we can build upon on these things. Okay, we can discuss these things maybe in detail. Okay, so for now let's focus on these two files only, the main activity file and the activity XML file. Okay, so now we have seen this overview, right? We have seen the project panel, right? So this slide is done. So after that, we saw how we can just select one of these activities, right? We saw in the demo part, we selected the empty activity. We can also select any of these activities. Okay, for now we kept it empty. Then we selected our project, we configured our project, right? The name of the application, package name, location, and the language that we are choosing, and the minimum SDK, that is the number of devices our application will be able to run. Okay, so after that we finished it. After that we had our first application, what an Android Studio looks like. This was the image that we got, right? So after that, now let's focus on how to create an emulator. Okay, so now let's go back. So this is the file, right? So now in your case there will be showing a no device here, right? So basically what you have to do, okay, let me just minimize these files and let me talk about some other files as well that are present here. Okay, so now if I minimize this thing and I remove this thing as well, now let's see what are the other files there. So basically favorites will contain if you have bookmarked anything, right? The breaking points, if you are when we are doing a large application, when you're building a large application, at that time this thing comes into picture. Okay, then the build variants is there. Right now we can skip this thing. Then the structure of our application, right? As our application grows, there will be multiple activities that we were using, and that will come in here. Okay, so after that we have the event log, which gives us all the details that how our Gradle is working. Okay, then we have build, right? The build was successful. The last build that we did 30 seconds ago was successful. So all these things are present in here. So basically as we move along in this course, okay, we have a terminal like a command prompt, not a command prompt exactly, but a terminal that will help us to maybe run some app commands over there. Okay, so this is the terminal that we have here. Okay. And let me minimize these things. Okay, also we have a log, that is the log catalog. Okay, wherein we will, once we will start running here, you will see all the things that we were doing with our application. Okay, right now it's empty. Okay, so now let's focus on these things. So basically this is nothing but when we minimize this project, then these things come up in here. Okay, so what are the things that we are dealing with? So then we have our app, right? Okay, now let's talk about how we can build that emulator. Okay, so there are two ways that you can build and look alike wherein you can run your application, right? There are two ways. One is that simply plug in your USB cable and connect with your phone, and you will be able to see whatever the app you are building on your phone. That is one way, but right now for this course I'm going to show you, because if I will connect my phone, then you will not be able to see what are the things that we are going to do. So to have something in here, right, so available devices in your case will be nothing. There will be showing no devices. Now what I will do, I will open this virtual device manager, right? The virtual device manager, that is VDM, right? Android virtual device manager. So in here what you will do, right now it is showing, in my case it's showing this pixel API 24, right? So this is the thing that I have already done. For now, in your case, you will just go into this, you will go into this Android, you can go directly to open an Android, this virtual device manager, or you can just go in here and project. Okay, here it is, just a minute, once again. Yeah, so tools, and then you can go in here, the Android virtual device manager. Okay, so once we have that, we can easily run these things. Okay, then we will also see what a profile app does. It will basically give us what are the memory that we are using. Okay, or the network thing is there. Also there are different things in here. Okay, so now let's focus on how to get our app or the virtual device. Okay, so now let's go into the tools, and let's go into this and let's click on create device, and let's select one of these. Okay, so basically you can pixel 3.0 is there, Nexus is there, so Nexus 1 is there, so you can select any of these, it doesn't matter, but just be focused on that, if whatever we are building, right? So if you are building a TV application, then you go into TV, phone, Wear OS, tablet, automotive. So right now we are dealing with this phone. Okay, then we click on next, and then we have to download one of these files. So I have already downloaded. Once you will download this file, you just click go on to the next option, and it will be finished. Okay, so what are the next option that you will be getting, I will show you. So I will cancel this for now and cancel this as well. So once you click on that, and once you have downloaded it, okay, so once you have, we have seen this image, right? So once you have downloaded it, it will start downloading like this, and once it has completed it, once it completes its download, that is a step 2, then you can verify configuration. Basically you can name it anything. Right now I have pixel API, you can name it, let's suppose Fazon, anything, you can name it anything, right? You can change the name of your device. Okay, so then this is the pixel, then you can change the orientation, either the portrait mode or the landscape mode, then the graphics, and then once you are done with this thing, then you will have an emulator running. Okay, so now let's go back to our Android Studio. Okay, so now once I will select this thing, and once I will run this thing, okay, I will start on run app. You will see there will be an emulator or a look-alike phone that I will be having on my screen. It will take some time, right? So if you see the Gradle build is running in here, right, on the screen. So if I go into the event log, you will see these 17, right? You will see, just give it some time, you will see some built-in happening. Okay, So as soon as I did this thing, you see how this build output is executing functions, right? Executing different tasks, merge, text debug. So basically it is helping me to build some kind of a virtual device that helps me. Whatever I will do will be affected on that, and it will look alike. Just when I get the APK of the file, it will works in a similar manner that it is working. Okay, that it will be working on this phone. Okay, so this is our phone, and this is our first app, that name that we gave, and these are the colors that I was talking about in the resource folder. Okay, so if you see the colors .xml, so the name, this primary color, okay, in the styles, right? So this primary color 62E3, so this is this color, right? The light blue color. The primary dark is the back side, wherein we have 714 and all those time and the time, right? And then we have the color accent. Okay, so these are all present in this values folder. Okay, so now let's minimize it. For now everything minimized it. So now what is this app, right? So this is the app that we are building, but we haven't written anything, right? You might be thinking, what is this hello world? We haven't created it anything. So now let's see that thing. Okay, so now let's minimize this thing for now and minimize this thing for. So now our emulator is done. Now we have a virtual device wherein we can run everything, right? Whatever we are doing, we will see how it looks. Okay, now this will be our first application, right? This is the first app, that is the default app, right? Hello world app, it is the default app. Now let's talk about these things, right? In the event log you will also get these things. Once the emulator has finished it, we will get this message. Okay, so in the event log, if you see, you see installed successfully, right? So this is the emulator thing, right? The emulator that we built. Okay, so now let's see our project folder and see the two files. What are the two files that we deal with? In Java we have what, the main activity file, and in resources we have, in layout, in the layout we have activity.xml. Okay, so now if you see, this activity xml is the front end, right? So whatever is in this file, whatever we do in this file will be our face, right? Will be the activity, and it will be the face of the application. And once whatever are the things that go in the back end of the application, that is responsible. And who is responsible for that? It is the activity, main activity.java file, that is the backend. Okay, so now if you see, I already told you how this set content wave works, right? So it is basically resource, then inside the resource there is layout, then in the layout there is main.activity. That is how our backend and front end are connected. If you see, this is that activity hyphen main, this is that function, right? Activity main function, activity main file, right? Okay, so now let's talk about this file. Okay, now we have this activity main xml file opened, right? So now if I do something, now let me open my emulator as well so that you can see the changes. So if you see here, we have a text view. So now whatever is present in here in between the hello world, we have that due to the fact that we have a text view, that is the default text view. Okay, and these are all constraint applied on it, so that the reason that this is on the center is due to the fact that we are applying these constraints. Okay, so if I do, we have three options in here, right? We can have a split screen, right, wherein we have this blueprint of, or we can have a design as well. So let me just minimize these things so that these things are clear. Okay, let me minimize this thing and let me maximize this thing. Okay, once I will do a double click on, so basically you see these lines, right? These curvy lines. So basically these are the constraint which helps us basically why we are applying these constraints. You see, I shifted it towards the left. Okay, and then I shifted it towards the right side, and then it's above as well, and it is I'm applying the constraint to the bottom as well. So if you see the component tree here, now this is the constraints, these are the constraints that are applied on our application, and this is the text view which contains hello world. Okay, then we also have a palette, which is nothing but the common basically this is a drag and drop thing wherein we can add something. So if I just put a text view, another text view, I just clicked on it and just dragged it here. Okay, now it comes here, right? You see in our component tree, which shows all the files, all the components that are present in our application. Okay, so again it contains text view. Now if I double clicked on it, let me just minimize this palette for now, and then I pressed here, and I will show you the design as well as the blueprint. Okay, so component tree is also gone, and let me just minimize this thing as well so that it is visible to you guys. Okay, now once I will double click on this thing, right, the text view, if you see, now I can apply constraint to this thing. Okay, now if you see, if I just remove the constraints, how I can remove the constraints, if you see, do you want to clear all the constraints on this current layout? Okay, if I clicked on yes, now if I run this thing earlier, let me remove this text view for now. So earlier we were having constraints, and that's why I told you, due to the fact that this was centered, right? If I run this thing again with the help of this, now you see the changes that will be done on our application, right, the emulator. So it will take some time. You see Gradle build running, and once it is run, now you see the text view is gone here. The hello world is gone here. So basically our phones differ in size, right? Some are of a tablet size, some are big phones, some are small phones. So to align the front end part the way we want, we apply constraints on it. Okay, so now how we can apply constraints, basically you have a circle in here, just see it gets bigger, right? And then I clicked on it and I made it towards the top. I can make it towards the bottom as well. I can align it towards the bottom. Wait a minute, I will align this as towards the bottom, and I'm applying the constraint here, and towards the left and towards the right. Okay, so now it will be centered on all the devices. Okay, now once I will click on this thing, now if I go into the attributes tab, now if you can see here, these are the constraint widgets, right? All the constraint that we have applied. So now we have this thing, right? The layout width. So basically layout width gives us the width, right? The width, so it will take only that much space, right? It will take only that much space, whatever is required by this text there, the hello world text. Okay, so width and the height, so we can change it to the parent as well. So basically we are building upon the layout that is already present, right? We are basically building upon that. So that's why if we build upon match the constraint, then it will go wide towards the text. Okay, it will take the whole space. Okay, for now let's keep it towards the wrap content, and now let's see other things. So if you see hello world, we can change it, this thing as well, in the text, and as soon as we change in here, you will see in the XML file the changes will be applied there as well. Now let's put a text like hi Sam. Okay, so now once we did this thing, it won't, you see the changes right away, the changes were made on this. Now once we run this, the changes will be applied on our emulator as well. So hi Sam is done. Then we have a fonts family, some main things. There are a lot of attributes there. You see there are a lot of attributes. So now I will change some of its attributes. Now I can use this ID as well. We will see how we can use this ID once we will have some buttons on it, some panels, some text, right? So all those things can be changed. Margin can be changed, right? So I can add some padding right there. I will show you. So if you want to just change the padding, I will just search in here the padding thing, and once I will get this thing, I can change it, right? So how much padding means that the space between the text and the border. Okay, the border of that text view. Okay, so I will just apply something here. So now let's talk about the units, right? So now it needs units. Okay, so the units except everything is in except the text size, right? That is in SP, that is scale independent pixel. So basically scale is based on the font size of the user preference. Okay, so basically apart from that, all of the units are DPI, that is density independent pixel. Okay, the height and the width, all those things are in DP except text size. Okay, that is in SP. Okay, that is the main difference. So only that thing is in SP. Basically the user's phone might vary in size, so that depends upon the pixels that we run this application on, so it will change itself. So that is scale independent pixel, and rest apart from that everything is in DP. So padding, we'll write 10 dp. Okay, you see, and then we can apply top, and let's suppose we apply 10 dp on this thing as well. Once we did this thing, you see it got broadened. Earlier there was no space as we did the text, the wrap content thing, right? So now if we want to do it on the either sides as well, we can apply 20 dp. Okay, that is density independent pixel, right? Also known as dip, right? And we can apply the same thing on this as well, 20 dp. Now if you see, once we are done with this thing, you see on the right hand side as well. Okay, on the right and on the end. Okay, and the end, this is end, here is it left. Okay, 20 dp. Okay, now it's done. So right, left, top, bottom, everything we padded it. Okay, you see the changes are made on this. Hi Sam, and now we have a padding between the text and this. So this is all about padding. Let me just remove this thing for now. And then we have the constraints along the parent folder, right? So we are building this activity is basically the layout folder. Upon that we have this activity. Okay, this first app. So that's why there's a parent and the child. So this is a child, and upon that we have a parent. So constraints are applied with respect to parents. Okay, so we have some other things as well. So visibility is there, the text ID is there. Okay, then we have text size. If you see, I told you apart from text size, rest all the units are in DP. So if I increase the text size of this, let me just put it on 14 SP, that is scale independent. Let me put it 20. Okay, so that it looks bigger. Okay, you see the size got changed. Okay, then we have text color. We can change the text color, we can change the style, we can make it bold, italic, right? We can align it. Let's keep it on center. Then we have alpha. So basically alpha is the transparency. If you have heard about the RGBA, right, the color format, so red, green and black, right? We have these things, right? So in that we have A also. So that A represents the transparency. Now if I put 0.5 here, you see this text will go a bit light. See, it got lightened. Okay, it was earlier black and now it's grayish kind of a thing. Okay, so now for now let's keep it as it is. Okay, so apart from that, there are many other things that you will use as much as you code on this thing. Then you need some colors, maybe foreground color or background color, so that those things can be changed. And what are the changes we made will be reflected in this XML file. Now let's go back to that XML file and let's go back into the code. Now you see, so if I remove this thing, then the constraints will be removed. Okay, now you see padding is applied here, right, with the help of this thing. Padding is there, height is there, left, right, top, bottom, and then text change it, the size we change, the text style we change it, right? These are all the changes that we made to our application. Now once we run this thing, you see it will come again in the center with hi Sam in it. Let's give it some time. Right, you see install successfully finished in this. So this will be all present in our this catalog. Okay, application, and event log will also be there So once we will run this thing, then it will also get updated. Okay, so this is all about our first application. So we created our first application successfully. Okay, now let's minimize this thing and let's talk about different things. Now let's go back to our split screen and design. Okay, so now let's minimize these attributes for now. Okay, so now this is all about our first application. Okay, now let's see what are the text formatting that we can do. Earlier we saw the text to what are the default, it was the default, right? We made changes to it, we customized the changes. Right now we will see how we can add some more things, right? Like plain text, like a password or any other thing that we want in our application. Okay, now let's see that. So this is our file, and let me open my emulator as well. Okay, so now what we will do, we'll open this palette and let's put a text field like a plain text here. We will just drag and drop it. Now this is here. Okay, now let's double click on it. Once you will double click on it, it will show us the attributes. Okay, so now let's just do one thing. Let's just split it and you can change here. It's right now it's showing design and blueprint. We can just go into the design only. Okay, and now let's just not split it, only the design part. Let's show the design part only. And now let's see, once I clicked on it, it showed me all the properties that I can apply on it. Okay, so now if you see, there are no constraints on it. If you see the component tree, now earlier it was hi Sam and the text view. Now we have a edit text as well. Okay, that we added, right, the plain text. So now once I clicked on it, now let's just first put the constraints, right? I will align this with this thing, the text field, and also I will align it with the top of the screen, and I will align it towards the left, and I will align it towards the right and towards the left. Okay, so now it will be aligned in center with respect to what hi Sam. So both of these will be centered. Okay, so now constraints have been applied. Now the text cap and all those things, input type, we can change that thing as well. Now let's change this name and let's put some name on it. Okay, just like a label. Okay, Sammy. Okay, so now we can again change its properties, right? So for positioning the devices, we applied different devices had different different devices have different their text screen or the screen length of that screen will be different. So constraint will help us in that. Okay, so layout width is there, right, with respect to its parent. Now we can change margins, we can change styles. We saw alpha, right? The transparency, background color, font color, text color can be changed, right? All those things can be changed. Okay, so now let's make some changes on this file. Okay, what are the changes that we can do? Let's change the text first to Sammy. Okay, done. And now the ID, let's change this ID for now to label L1, right? L1. Okay, you see the label got changed. Okay, so now what else can we do? We can do a lot of things, but I'm only showing those things which make sense right now for now. Okay, text size, if you see, is in 18. Now we can change the text color, right? You just go on this and then you can change the color. You see here it is alpha, then the red, green, black. Okay, so now let's change the text of it. You can just use this pointer to point to anything you want. Okay, you see as soon as I'm changing this thing, it changes. So 0 means black, and 255 means something. It ranges from 0 to 255, so 255 means white. So if I do a white text, then we won't be able to see anything. So let's keep it on the darker side. Okay, done. Right, so you see the text has been changed. Okay, then we have a background color. Let's change the background color of this to red. Done. You see it changed to red. So these are all the things that you can do. Okay, then we have these. All of these are attributes that we can change these things. Okay, so now let's run this thing. Okay, so we can add different texts. We can add buttons. We will see how to add buttons, widgets, their layouts as their constraint layout we have already seen. So there are different layouts in there. Okay, so as soon as we make any changes, this component tree will help us to see what are the changes that we made. Okay, so now let's run this thing. You see it will be aligned with respect to this hi Sam. This Sammy will be aligned to it. Okay, just give it some time. It takes time to run. Yeah, you see we can't see the text because of the color that we put. Okay, so this is all about what text. Now let's minimize this and minimize our folder. So we saw how we can change our text views, right? We saw earlier, we saw text view, then we saw edit view, right? So what are the text fields that we change? So text, basically text field is nothing but the text that is present on our application, right? It can be a single line or a multiple line. We just saw, right, how we drag that edit text into our activity file, right, wherein we added that thing, and as soon as we added, we were able to customize it, right? We also saw the input type as well, right? So if I open my application again, now as soon as I'm making these changes will be applicable, right? You see, earlier we were not having this site, right? Now we are having this edit view, right? Edit text, right? So all the changes that we make, we can make it directly on the code, or we can just drag and drop. Okay, if I make any changes in the text here, right, I told you already, right? So I said ha ha ha, let's put it this ha ha. So so these changes will be applicable on the emulator as well. So if I run this thing, you see the changes will be applied on this emulator as well. If you can see, just a minute, you'll see the changes as well here. You see ha ha ha, if you can see it. If I zoom this thing, okay, it just got hanged. This is a very I mean to say, this application does this thing. Okay, so yeah, installed successfully, done. Okay, it's not zooming. Okay, I pressed back. Okay, so now let's forget about these things. Okay, now let's see some other things. That text field is done, right? Now let's we learned how we can just add these things, right? We have a clear idea. Right now we can add multiple text, we can add date, we can add time, number, anything that we want. Okay, so these are some common widgets that we use, right? Or the common fields that we use: buttons, images, recycle view, right? So all of these are present in this palette. So okay, done. So now let's see what else can we do with this thing. Okay, we can add buttons as well. So buttons is, for example, if we will be using these things to create our first application, the demo 1 and demo 2, all these things that we learned so far. So buttons is nothing when we perform some action when the user presses it, right? So if we want to let's suppose we want to add two numbers, and then we have a button to so that when we click that button, it will show us the result. So that thing can be done with the help of button. Events, for example, on click in an event will be there, right? We will see in a moment. Styles we can add, borders, background, all those things can be added with the help of this button. Okay, let's see our first application that we are trying to build. So the first application we will be building upon on the same thing, right? So first what we will have we will have a text field, right? So basically we are building this generate random number application. Okay, then again we will have a text, and then we have that label, just that we added that, right? So that thing we will try to build this thing. Okay, so now we are creating our first application. So I have created the outline of it. I haven't coded anything, just that I have put a text view here with a name, with the text as generate random number, with id as text view 5. So we don't require this thing when we write the backend of it. So then another thing that is there, that is another text view which is set to which is the text is changed to set range, wherein we will set our range. And there is another thing that is our first the text, whatever, once we have put a range, then this is the area where we get our what this is our area where we will get our result. Okay, so this is again a text view. Okay, and finally what we have here is another thing that is the this is a plain text here, right? So here we will set our range. So basically it will accept us to put a string, so we will convert that string to integer. And once we have put it here our range, then according to that, when we put there is a button here which generates a random number based on this range. Okay, so this is the outline or the front end part that I have designed already. Now let's code its backend. Okay, so now I have just linked them together. This is linked with this, the plain text, right? The text, and this is linked with this is linked with this. So all the constraints have been applied so that it looks a bit beautiful. Okay, that's it. So now let's code its backend. So basically if you see, this generate random number is having text as generate. So this is a button. Now once we click on this, once we set a range, once we put a range in there, and then when we click on this generate, we will fetch that range with the help of this generate button, and based on that we will generate a random number. For example, the range is 10, so we will generate a random number from 0 to 10. That's it. Okay, so now let's code its let's minimize this palette here. Our front end is done, and now let's look when we run this app how it looks. Okay, on the emulator. So it will take some time. Gradle build is running and it has completed. Right now it's installing, 0 errors, and this is how it looks. Okay, so now this set range is gone a bit up. So okay, what we will do, we will apply some constraints. Okay, so we will just apply this constraint here with this thing. Okay, let's minimize this constraint. Let's remove this constraint. How you can remove this constraint? Simply add in here and remove. Yes, that's it. Okay, so now there are no constraints on this application. Okay, once we will run this thing, let's see how it looks. It will look jumbled, everything. It will look jumbled in a one place. You see, everything is in one place. So now let's put constraints again. So now this thing, let's put a constraint in here. Okay, and now let's put a constraint of this with this thing, with this thing, so that it becomes somewhat in center. Let's put a here and put it here. Then this generate random, let's put a constraint in here as well. And then this text view, let's put a constraint with this and with this, so that it comes in center. Now everything looks fine. These constraints, you have to be a little bit careful about these constraints, because based on these constraints your app will look exactly in the same manner. You see now the constraints are present, but it still looks somewhat weird, right? So now let's put it here and put it here so that it comes in between. And now with this constraint we will put it here, okay, and we will put it here. Okay, so far so good. And now let's put a constraint this, and now put a constraint here. Now let's see, let's hope that this time it will be somewhat perfect. So set range and these two files are getting up. Okay, so now what we will do, we'll apply this constraint here and here. So now it will stop him from going up. Now let's see. Okay, so what we will do now, let's put it here. So this is taking time, so I hope you guys got the idea of how these constraints work. Okay, so now once I have applied these constraints, okay, and this is how it looks finally. It is somewhat close to what we were trying to build. So this is the front end part of it. So we have a generate random number, then set range, and after we set the range, it will fetch that range and put a random number on that plain text that we have in here. Okay, so now let's go into the main.activity. Okay, so now let's create an on-click event here. Okay, so how we will create an on-click event, basically the button that we have in here in our XML file, let's see the ID of it. So it's button, so we will use that button dot on click event, or we can simply generate the on click event here as well. So it will show us some error here. Let's click here, let's see on click. Here we have it, on click event, and let's call that on click. So once we have, okay, it just didn't catch that. Okay, so we have in here on click, let's call it on click. So you can name a function anything, or we can do it by another thing. So basically let's put it on main on click event. So now let's create an event that is the on click event. First we will fetch that, and then we will add our method on it. Okay, so the first thing that we will do, we will fetch our button of type button. The name of that is also button. Okay, now what we will do, we will typecast it to button. Okay, so this is done, and then what we will do, if we want to find any ID on that page that we have, the front end page, we will use find view by ID. Okay, and then what is the thing that helps us, r dot id dot id dot, and then the name of the is that button. Okay, done. So we have fetched that button. Okay, we have to alt enter so that it will include those files in it. Okay, okay, so alt enter. So it is done, and now what we will do, we'll press alt enter. So the button is done. Alt enter. Okay, so now after that, what we will do, we can name it anything. We don't have to be, let's call it btn. Okay, so now we have fetched the id, we have the button. Now what we will call on this button, btn dot on click event, right? Set on click listener. So once we will click on it, okay, press a tab and then write new, then view. Basically these are all views, right? View dot on click listener, right? We have this listener here, and now what we will do, we'll create its body inside it, and that's it. Okay, now what we will do, we will write public void on click, right? So on click, it will take an argument which is of type view, and let's name it view as well. Okay, and then what we will do, we will just use our first edit text. We'll fetch our first edit text, right? So edit text, which is named f, right? So f, and we typecast it to edit text as well, because it will be returned in as a string. So then again we will write find view by id, again r dot what, r dot id dot, the name of the id is fetch, and we fetch that thing from the edit text, right, the range, and then we will put it on a text view, right? So text view, let's name it result equal to, again we typecast it. Okay, so again this typecasting is very important, you should be able to know that, right? So it is basically Java, and how we typecast our things, basically it will return some string, and that we will convert that string into text view. Okay, so again we will look for r dot id dot, what do we name that result as, put, right? So id was put, right? Cool. So we have a range, and then what we will do, we'll use int range, right? So int range, and then we will convert it to an integer, because it will return in as a string, integer dot parse int, right? So parse int, and again we will look for, we will fetch that string from that, right, with the help of fetch object, that f object, right? F dot get text. So we got the text and we changed it to string. So after that it is changed to string, we convert it back to what, back to integer, so to string, and then we are done. And now we have the range, so whatever we have inputted on that, we with the help of f object, we got the text, we converted it to string, and then we converted it back to integer. So after that we will generate a random number, random. Okay, let's name it r, and we will generate random number, random dot. First we will create an object, right? Random, a new dot random. Okay, done. So we are done with this random. We got that function in r, and then we will generate a random number. Let's name it random number equal to, so how we will write this, random dot next int, right? And then the range. So how you will define the range? So it is r minus 0, that is the minimum value, that is ranging from 0 to what, the minimum again. So r is the maximum, maximum minus minimum plus plus minimum. Okay, so that 0 is also included, so from 0 to that. Okay, we are done with this thing as well. Random dot next int, and then we give it the pawn, so random r. Okay, the range is present in r, right? It is present in range, right? So done, and then we will set that res to the result dot set text, set text, and then what we will print, we'll print this random number, random, right? And then since it has to be a string, so we will concatenate a string so that the output will be in the form of string. So what are the errors that we have in this file? Okay, this random range, okay, we haven't defined it, so it has r dot. Okay, cool. So now once we will run this thing, okay, it's building. So we have our emulator ready. Now we will press in 90. So no, let's not put it 90, let's put it 5. So let's generate random numbers from 0 to 5, including 5. So generate. Okay, it's a bit slow. Let's wait. 2, 3, 1, 4. You see? Let me maximize it a bit. Okay, now you see. Now once I will press the random, put it in between. So now once I will press in here, it will generate random. Okay, it's just okay. Thank you. Now let's generate a random number. So it won't exceed beyond. It won't go beyond 5. So excluding 5. Okay. So now when I press 10, okay, done. Now I will generate. Now you see it won't go beyond 10. So this is the range that we are setting. Let's suppose 20. Done. Let's generate. It won't go beyond what, 20. So this was the app, first app that we built based on the things that we have learned so far. Okay, so now let's go back to this thing. So we generated this thing, and the code is also shared with you so that you guys can run it on your own. Okay, so this is the first application that we were trying to build. Now the second application that we are trying to build is fairly simple. Basically we are adding two numbers, that's it. So there's a plain text, then we have another plain text wherein we will fetch both these numbers, and then we will add them and we print the result below. Okay, now let's make the changes on this same file, and let's see what are the things that we have to remove. Okay, so now I have also shared the code of this with you guys. Okay. Let's go back in this and let's make the changes in first start this file. So we don't need this. Okay, we need another thing. Copy this thing and paste it in here. Okay, now we have two text fields in here. We will rename this thing, right? Let's click on it and just remove this on click. Generate random numbers. Let's say it is add two numbers. It's fairly simple, then simpler than that. Okay, now we have add two numbers. We have the constraints. We will be having two numbers here. One is here. Now let's generate this thing, and after that we'll put it here as well. Okay, put in here. So now let's see how it looks. We'll run this thing. It is having so many errors because the XML file, the Java file that we built is unchanged. Let's make changes in it as well. So let's first see how our app looks like. So we have our app's backend ready, or the front end is ready. Okay, now let's change its backend. So for backend, what we will do, we will simply use the button on click event, right? Once we will click on it, then what we have two edit texts and one text view. So we will add another edit text in here, edit text, and let's call it F1, F2. So F2 dot edit text, right? So edit text, find typecasting it, and once we have typecast it, so find view by ID. Now we don't know the ID yet because we copied it, so it might be fetch to. Let's see. Okay, yeah, it is fetch to. Basically when you copy, it does this 1-2 thing. Okay, so fetch to. Now we have both the edit text with us and we have the result ID with us. Now let's add them together. Let's use, we don't need now random number generator, so we need this set text. So we will change this thing as well to our answer or sum. Let's name it sum, and let's define a sum here. So we will be getting again a string, so we need to convert those strings, right? So parse int has to be there. F dot get fetch, we have fetched that first number, so F1, we have to write F1, we have fetched our first number, and we converted it to string, and then we again use same thing. Okay, use same thing just to fetch what the other number. Copy this thing and paste it here, and now we'll fetch our second number, that is F2. We'll put the end of statement, and that's it, we are done, right? So now let's see how it runs. So getting our emulator ready. Okay, cool. Okay, our emulator is done. So now let's put our first number, that is 20. Let's put a second number, that is 60, or let's put 80 so that it will get 100. Okay, now let's generate. Okay, 10 and okay, so what happened here? So now let's see what happened here, and we have written it as generate, and we haven't changed it, right? So now what is happening, it is synced in size. So now let's maximize a bit. So let's change its width to 45 dp. So now it looks a bit better, and now let's change its width again. it doesn't look good right now. So let's click on it and change it to 100 dp. Now it looks good, and height will let it be same. So now let's change this generate number to add. Once we are done with this thing, now let's run this thing again and let's see how it goes. Give our first number 23. We'll give our second number 23, that is 46. We will add these numbers, we will get 46. Okay, we'll add them again, we'll get 46. Let's put it 233 and 233. Done. Okay, add it 4666. Okay, cool guys. So now we are done with our second app as well. So let's minimize this thing. So we were building this adding to number app, so we did this, right? So the only difference from that image to the one that we built was this text view. This text view is at the end, but in our application in that we built, it was somewhere in between the plain text and the text view. Okay, cool. So this is the second app and this is the code for it, so that you guys can try it out. Okay guys, thank you so much.